I'm going to ask you to pull a Des Bryant here. Calm yourself. Cope. Take a sip of wine. Well, we discuss my list of Mike McCarthy's 10 biggest Dallas Cowboys screw-ups. The list is probably more than 10. I just came up, I limited it to 10. I don't mean to suggest for a moment that there haven't been positives. As I say all the time, though, if you have a season where you finish 10-6, every 16 things we say about you, 10 of them should be good, 6 should be bad. If you finish 6-10, vice versa. That's the way it should work. That's the way it does work with me. That's why it's so funny to me that Mike McCarthy said he was surprised by being quizzed about job security. He says, frankly, I really am surprised. And Jerry said he was surprised, and Steven said he was surprised. Guys, I'm surprised you're surprised. Coach started 3-9. Then he got the win in Cincinnati. Good for him. You go 3-9, you have to be questioned. You go 3-9, then I'm not very good at math, but out of every 12 things I say about you, 12 things I say about you, 9 of them are going to be bad. Because you're 3-9. And I'll say 3 good things about you. Because that's what you've earned. That's what you are. Don't you think it's funny that Jerry is willing to field questions about his security, if you will, at general manager? He's willing to answer questions about Bones Fossil's security at special teams coach. He does not address Mike Nolan's security at defensive coordinator, and you know why. So, of course, 3-9 brings the heat. If it doesn't bring the heat at 3-9, your organization's doing something wrong. So 4-9 from Cincinnati. But 3-9 as we're having most of this conversation. Jerry saying that McCarthy has successfully demonstrated experience, football intelligence, while properly managing risk-taking, interaction with players, and COVID challenges. Jerry, no. He hasn't done any of those things. Whatever he's done, Mike McCarthy's merits are, they do not include, look at all my experience. They do not include, look at my football intelligence. They do not include properly managing risk-taking. This is a really stupid risk-taking team. They do not include interaction with players. His interaction with players for most of the year has been a disaster, as chronicled by Jane Slater and myself. And the COVID-related challenges, how have you coped with them if you're 3-9? Other teams have had the same challenges. They're 9-3. How have you coped with yours if you're a loser? So there's Jerry's positives. See, I told you we'd say some positives, even though I don't buy most of them. Now, knowing fully that Mike McCarthy will coach here in 2021, and that's fine. I'm not suggesting he shouldn't. I am suggesting that we be honest about the head coach, Mike McCarthy's 10 biggest screw-ups. And here we go. Screw-up number 10, personal stubbornness that kept bad players on the field. It took this staff almost until the start of November to realize that Dontari Poe could not play a lick. Same thing with undrafted rookie Terrence Steele. Clearly a pet cat of this coaching staff. And again, coaches have their pets. That's okay. And maybe Terrence Steele's future is bright. Someday, maybe Terrence Steele will be the swing tackle of the future and be here 10 years. And wouldn't that be great? And I'm for that. But right now, he is inarguably the worst player to line up for the Cowboys on offense this year. And McCarthy let him line up for months. Screw up number 9, personnel stubbornness that kept good players off the field. The other one was kept bad players on the field. This has kept good players off the field. Veteran Cowboys have been buzzing about safety Donovan Wilson since last year. McCarthy and this staff went through a half a dozen safeties before they finally said, why don't we let Wilson play? And now he's one of the few bright spots on this awful defense. At the risk of being nitpicky, I can keep going. Why does Rashard Robinson play more than Jordan Lewis? Why does Brandon Knight, the kid offensive lineman who last year's staff thought was a really good prospect, barely get a glance here? Why does Randy Gregory only play 20% of the snaps? I had somebody argue with me when we did our report on how the coaching staff, some of them thinks Dorrance Armstrong is more suited for what they do than Randy Gregory. And some guy yelled at me, what are you talking about? He had 2 sacks against Washington. I know. He also has 2 sacks all season. And he also plays 20% of the snaps. I'm not dissing Randy Gregory. I'm so happy for Randy Gregory. I could burst as a person. But the coaching staff plays him 20% of the time. If he's so good, maybe they should play him more. Why doesn't Reggie Robinson ever play? I'll give you another angle on this. Sources in this building have admitted to me that they screwed up in not reacquiring Ron Leary. Screwed it up. I think they screwed up in picking Poe over Snacks Harrison, who told me repeatedly he desperately wanted to sign here. Lives in DFW, wanted to stay close to his family in a COVID time, one of the best run stoppers of his generation. Snacks Harrison. Cowboys barely gave it a thought. I think they screwed up on not rolling the dice on Earl Thomas. And I still think they should have bid more aggressively on Jamal Adams. That's not all on McCarthy, obviously, but he does have more say in personnel than he ever had in 13 Green Bay seasons. Did he contribute to any right calls here? Not with those guys, he didn't. And one more. How can rookie quarterback Ben DiNucci 1 week be a starter and be the next Mark Bulger and be the next Tony Romo? And those thoughts aren't mine. Those thoughts came from people inside the Star, including the coach. And the next week, he's not even worthy of competing for the number 2 job. He went from a starting quarterback on a Sunday to being persona non grata on a Monday. That's not coaching. Did Ben DiNucci screw up the Cowboys, or are the Cowboys screwing up Ben DiNucci? Screw up number 8, fibbing about a commitment to being a 4-down lineman front. I'm the one who asked McCarthy about this right after he was hired over beers and diet soda pop at the Star. And he said, yes, sir. We're going to be a 4-down lineman front. Unfortunately, his players believed him. And I think when they discovered that it wasn't true, he might have lost some of those players, at least temporarily. Screw up number 7, ignoring his players' private and then public complaints. I know for a fact that several veterans took their thoughts, complaints, whatever, to him early in the season. They went through channels and all that. And then after seeing no results, that's when they started griping privately to Jane Slater, to me, and to others, airing their grievances or their observations in public. Some of them, by the way, were whispers. Some of them, DeMarcus Lawrence just came out and said, we don't have a backbone. Our team doesn't have any backbone. I think DeMarcus Lawrence said that inside the Star, and nobody listened to him. So then he said it out loud. And then McCarthy wagged his finger at us again, as he is wont to do. How dare you say that? No, Coach, I'm not saying they don't have a backbone. They're saying they don't have a backbone, and they told you that, and you ignored it. When the media brought it to McCarthy, he did the same thing to us that he did to his own players. He dismissed it. And by the time he was roasted in public for that gaffe, he announced that his door is always open to players. And some players thought, and I think that that announcement came too late. Screw up number 6. He knowingly let a woe is me attitude permeate the locker room. Yes, a lot of Cowboys are hurt and got hurt in 2020, but what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? All McCarthy could really manage, it seems to me, is to grant an interview. I think it was Pam Oliver, Fox Sports, halftime of the Washington game at Washington, where the Cowboys were getting slaughtered. And he admitted that he's been fighting a woe is me attitude in the locker room for weeks. Dude, once you're announcing that on TV, you're not fighting it anymore. You've lost to it. Screw up number 5. Remember fantasy football nonsense? and I was involved in this questioning too with McCarthy. Why don't you move Zach Martin to right tackle? Tackle is more important than guard. He's just as good at tackle as guard. Watch and see. And boy, was he. And you're short of qualified tackles, but you're long on qualified guards. Just move him to tackle. And McCarthy told me and others that's fantasy football nonsense. It's nonsense to have a guard play tackle? Since when? The 90s championship Cowboys did it all the time. Guards played center, centers played guard, left tackles played defensive tackle, right tackles played left guard, best five. Mike, you never heard of best five? Later, too much later, McCarthy finally moves Martin to right tackle ahead of the Minnesota game. And before his injury, Zach Martin played at an all-pro level there, just like he had at the less important guard spot. How is it possible that the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys didn't know that's what was going to happen? Screw up number 4. He has not been able to match wins or wits with the historically inept NFC East and 2 other first-year coaches. Guys, again, I'm not bashing McCarthy here. This is just the facts. If there was ever a chance to take advantage of a weak division and of the Giants, not only with a first-year coach, but with a rookie coach in Joe Judge, and of Washington, not only with a first-year coach, but also with a coach battling cancer, for God's sake. This was that opportunity. Opportunity was gifted McCarthy's Cowboys. Yes, some was robbed by injury, but others were gifted to him. And so far, as we have this conversation here, they're 1-3 in the division, having been swept critically by Washington. Screw up number 3. He claimed to not be a gambler. And man, he told a great story of growing up a kid in Pittsburgh. Dad's a cop, a fireman, and owns a bar. Parents own a bar. So he's in there working in the bar as he's a kid. And he looks around and he sees all the slot machines in there every day. And he says he sees the same people coming in and dumping money foolishly into the slot machines. And he said that taught him not to be a gambler. So he made it sound like he's a cool, smart, risk-reward evaluator. But he's not. Some of these decisions this year have been gambles, and dumb gambles, foolish gambles, not fooling anybody gambles. Aggressiveness paired with foolishness is just foolishness. The fake punt from his own 24 on 4th and 10 on Thanksgiving Day. And remember, the call, first of all, that's the wrong time in the game, wrong field position, wrong down and distance. And then the call. I'm going to have a safety take the snap, pitch it to a wide receiver, and the wide receiver is going to throw it to the punter. You are asking way too much, guys. That was never going to happen. By the way, I'm told they tried it in practice and it never did work because Hunter the punter can't catch. And by the way, while everybody, nor can CJ, he can't catch either. And I know, the wide receiver was a high school quarterback. A lot of people were a high school quarterback. That doesn't mean they could throw it on the run, making decisions in the NFL. Otherwise, because if Cedric Wilson could play quarterback in the NFL, guess what he'd do for a living? That call remains one of the most mind-bogglingly stupid decisions I've seen in 30 years of covering the Cowboys and 40 years of covering the NFL and 50 years watching the NFL. And it's just one of many examples. Screw up number 2. McCarthy seems to have developed a tendency to say what the audience and the owner wants to hear. I'm not saying yes man. I'm not saying puppet. I'm saying to get what he wants, he says what he needs to say. He definitely did that in the interview process when he told the Joneses that he'd cut up and watched every single Cowboy play from 2019, and then later kind of admitted with a chuckle that he didn't really do that. He probably did so on the subject of advanced analytics, something he always dismissed in Green Bay. I mean, laughed at it, scoffed at it, gagged at it. But my sense is that in the interview with the Joneses at Jerry's mansion, that Stephen probably said, what do you think of advanced analytics. And maybe McCarthy knowing that this organization spends a fortune on that. Doesn't mean they always use it, but they spend a fortune on it. I think Mike realized that Stephen was saying, we value it. How about you? And so he said, yeah, so do I. Mike McCarthy reinvented 55 years of not believing something in 55 weeks. No, he didn't. And then the whopper that he told you, that he'd fit the players to the scheme and not the other way around. They absolutely have not done that. If that were the case, Dallas would simply be playing the same system it played in 2020. And then using largely the same players, not Byron Jones. These same players would rank as a better than average unit, the same way they did last year. Slightly better than average. But instead, Mike McCarthy and his pal, defensive coordinator Mike Nolan, turned aggressive and smart players like Tank Lawrence into something else. Jalen Smith into something else. Joe Thomas into something else. Lost and confused and overwhelmed and overmatched and losers. That is a fireable offense of somebody. And it's okay to talk about it. That's what 3-9 gets you. That's what 4-9 gets you. That's what losing gets you. Examination, hard examination. And screw up number one. I've called this arrogant and ignorant. We've talked about it here before. I think it merits discussion again. The McCarthy-Nolan decision to install a whole new defense without the benefit of spring workouts, OTAs, full training camp, preseason games, or even actually meeting some of the players face-to-face. For real, the Cowboys attempted something that never been tried before and will never be tried again. These coaches thought their teaching skills so brilliant that they were going to tutor these players who the coaches did not know into playing a system that the players did not know using Zoom meetings. Again, unforgivable. And for somebody, fireable. I detailed this football crime a long time ago. Jerry and Stephen have since come on 105.3 The Fan and admitted, yeah, that was a mistake. Good. I'm glad you admitted it was a mistake. Jerry said, and it was my mistake. I'm the general manager. I went along with it. My mistake, our mistake. It'll be Nolan who pays for the air. The Joneses, of course, have again strongly endorsed McCarthy, and that's fine. Jerry twanging the other day that even daring to question the coach's job security is ridiculous. That's how Jerry pronounced ridiculous. Ridiculous. RIDIC''Lous. Ridiculous. But they've skipped on thinking it's ridiculous to do that to Nolan. They're going to do that to Nolan, I think. Quote from Jerry. Quote from Stephen. There will be absolutely no change with McCarthy. I'm surprised. Again, there's that keyword, surprise. How dare you? That anyone would question Mike given these unprecedented situations that everybody's been in. Frankly, though, the standard around here needs to be so high, America's team high, that, quote, unprecedented situations get conquered. And that if not, everything gets questioned. Conquer it or question it. And when you add up all the high profile and highly obvious errors in Mike McCarthy's first season, quote, steering a ship that's going to be righted, as Stephen says, and we all hope it is. The only real surprise, there's that word again, is the high number of Mike McCarthy screw-ups that have been ridiculous. Thank you for subscribing. Please spread the word. We are steaming towards 17,000, at which point we give away valuable prizes, as you know. Come find us on Facebook and Twitter, as well at Fish Sports. And then subscribe and hit that bell and tell your friends. And let's hang out here all weekend long as we get ready for Cowboys at AT&T. Fish out.